Before the map was redrawn, there was a different world. It was a land of shared seasons and festivals. Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs lived as neighbors. They had done so for centuries. Their lives were woven together in the bustling markets of Lahore and the quiet villages of Punjab. Their children played together in the dusty streets, unaware of the impending storm. The idea of a border, a line that would cleave their communities in two, was unimaginable. The British Empire was exhausted. World War II had bled it dry of men, money, and morale. The jewel in its crown, India, was no longer a source of immense wealth, but a massive, restive liability. The post-war Labour government in London, led by Clement Attlee, was eager to decolonise and focus on rebuilding Britain. The idea of partition was not new. It had been floated for years by the All India Muslim League, led by the brilliant but unyielding Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The Indian National Congress, led by Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, vehemently opposed this two-nation theory. Following the Direct Action Day riots in Calcutta, which saw thousands of Hindus and Muslims killed, the prospect of civil war became terrifyingly real. Lord Louis Mountbatten, the last viceroy, arrived in India in March 1947 with a clear mandate: transfer power and get out, fast. He compressed the timeline for independence from June 1948 to August 1947. This frantic rush left no time for careful planning. Sir Cyril Radcliffe was a British lawyer. He had never been to India before. Yet this was the man tasked with one of the most consequential acts of map-making in history. He was given just 5 weeks to draw a border, the Radcliffe Line, that would partition the provinces of Punjab and Bengal. The line he drew would become a scar across the landscape, a border of blood and tears that would define the destinies of generations. Jawaharlal Nehru, who would become India's first Prime Minister, had fought his entire life for a united India. Accepting partition was a bitter pill. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the Quaid-i-Azam, had achieved his goal, but the Pakistan he got was not the one he had envisioned. It was a moth-eaten and truncated version. A family in a Punjabi village went to sleep as Indians and woke up to find they were now in Pakistan, or vice versa. The announcement of the border ignited a firestorm. It triggered the largest mass migration in human history. In a matter of months, an estimated 15 million people were uprooted. Hindus and Sikhs on the Pakistani side of the new border and Muslims on the Indian side were forced to abandon everything. A Sikh farmer from a village near Lahore, a man named Isha Singh, remembered his Muslim neighbors weeping as he loaded his family onto a bullock cart. They had shared harvests and sorrows for decades. Now, they were on opposite sides of a divide they did not create. He recalled leaving behind a pot of milk boiling on the stove, convinced they would be back in a few weeks once the troubles were over. They never returned. The journey was fraught with peril. The convoys, known as kafilas, stretched for miles, a slow-moving river of despair. A Muslim woman, Begum Anis Kidwai, later wrote of her experience in Delhi. She described the refugee camps that sprang up overnight, filled with people who had lost everything. As the Great Migration began, the trains became symbols of both hope and horror. They were meant to be vessels of salvation, carrying terrified refugees to safety. These trains, packed with people clinging to the roofs and sides, were frequently ambushed. Mobs of armed men from opposing communities would stop a train in the middle of nowhere. A train would pull into a station in Lahore or Amritsar, not with the sound of hopeful arrivals, but in eerie silence. It was a ghost train, filled only with the dead. The violence was not random, it was intimate and brutal. It was neighbors turning on neighbors. The cycle of retribution was merciless. Women bore the brunt of the violence in the most horrific ways. They were abducted, raped, and mutilated on a massive scale by all sides. The human cost was staggering, with estimates of the dead ranging from 500,000 to over 1 million people. One survivor, a young boy at the time, recounted hiding under a pile of bodies on a train to survive. He remembered the screams, the smell of blood, and the terrifying silence that followed. He was one of the few who lived to tell the tale. On the stroke of midnight, as August 14th turned to August 15th, 1947, two nations were born. In Karachi, Muhammad Ali Jinnah declared the birth of Pakistan. In Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru delivered his famous tryst with destiny speech. It was a moment of immense hope, of euphoric celebration. For millions, it was the dawn of a new era, the end of 2 centuries of colonial rule. This hope, however, was tragically intertwined with immense pain. While politicians made speeches and flags were unfurled in the capital cities, the countryside was on fire. A refugee arriving in Delhi from Lahore felt the joy of being in a free India, but also the profound sorrow of being in exile. A Muslim family reaching Karachi felt the relief of arriving in Pakistan, but also the deep ache for the life they had left behind. The new governments were immediately faced with a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. They had to accommodate millions of destitute refugees, restore order, and build a state from scratch. The new citizens of India and Pakistan had to build their nations on a foundation of shared sorrow. They had to forge new identities, create new homes, and learn to live with the ghosts of the past. The events of 1947 are not a distant memory. They are a living history that continues to shape South Asia today, in 2025. The hastily drawn Radcliffe line became a heavily militarized and contentious border, one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the world. The unresolved issue of Kashmir is a direct and bloody legacy of this moment. It is a constant, painful reminder of the unfinished business of 1947. The nuclear capabilities of both nations make this inherited rivalry a threat not just to the region, but to the entire world. Families remain divided by the border. An elderly woman in Delhi might still dream of the courtyard of her childhood home in Rawalpindi. The shared culture, the language, the music, the food, the films, stubbornly refuses to be partitioned. These cultural connections are a testament to the shared world that once was. The ghosts of partition have not been laid to rest. They walk among us still, in the stories of our grandparents. To understand South Asia today, we must understand 1947. It is the foundational event, the great rupture from which so much of the present has flowed. The ghosts of partition continue to define the relationship between 2 brother nations born from a single tragic wound.